I started going to the laundromat on Tuesdays because it was quieter. Same machines. Same cracked plastic chair by the window. The place smelled like warm soap and old coins, the kind of smell that settles into your clothes even after you leave. I'd bring my laptop, pretend to work, end up watching the dryers spin instead. She came in one Tuesday with a canvas tote and a paper coffee cup she kept refilling from the sink. No rush. Like the afternoon belonged to her. She didn't look at me right away. That was the first thing I noticed. Most people glance, then look away. She moved like she already knew where everything was. She loaded a washer, folded the empty tote carefully, then finally looked up. "Is that one free?" she asked, pointing at the dryer closest to me. "Yeah. It eats quarters though," I said. She smiled, just a little. "Figures. We shared the machine anyway." Clothes tumbling together like they'd agreed to it. I noticed her hands when she fed in the coins, steady, deliberate. A thin gold ring she kept turning with her thumb, like checking it was still there. I went back to my screen. Didn't type anything. She sat 2 chairs away, crossed her legs, uncrossed them. Took a sip of coffee that was probably cold. The silence wasn't awkward. It was occupied. Like something was already happening, quietly, between the hum of the machines. "Graphic design?" she asked, nodding at my laptop. "Trying to be," I said. She laughed softly. Not a punchline laugh. More like recognition. We didn't talk much after that. Just small things. The dryers were louder than usual. Someone had left a sock behind. She remembered my name after I said it once. That part stuck with me. I realized later how lonely I must have been. Not the dramatic kind. The kind where you keep typing messages and deleting them. Where you pause a song halfway through because it feels like too much. Where you promise yourself you'll leave the house, then sit on the edge of the bed longer than you meant to. When my clothes were done, I folded them slower than necessary. She did the same. Matching my pace without saying anything. I caught myself watching her hands again. The way she smoothed out a shirt like it mattered. "You live nearby?" she asked. "Down the street," I said. "For now." She nodded like she understood that part better than I did. Outside, the air felt cooler than it should have. She walked in the same direction as me for half a block. Then stopped. "Well," she said. "See you around." I wanted to say something else. Something that didn't sound like a line. I folded a receipt in my pocket instead. Unfolded it. Folded it again. "Yeah," I said. "Probably." She hesitated. Just a beat too long to be nothing. Then turned and walked away. That night, my phone buzzed while I was brushing my teeth. An unknown number. I stood there with toothpaste in my mouth, staring at the screen. Left my thermos in the laundromat. The blue one. "If you see it, let me know." I rinsed, wiped my mouth, typed back, erased it, typed again. I hadn't seen any thermos. But I knew exactly which one she meant. I found the thermos the next morning. It was on top of the dryer, pushed back like someone meant to grab it and forgot. Blue. A little scuffed near the bottom. Still warm when I unscrewed the lid. Coffee, strong. Bitter in a way that suggested it had been refilled more than once. I stared at it longer than necessary, then texted the number back. "Found it. I can drop it by." The reply came almost immediately. "You don't have to. I'll be around later." Around meant the house. Her house. The one I rented the back unit from. I hadn't connected that before. Or maybe I had and chose not to. By the time I walked up the path, I'd already imagined 3 versions of how it could go. All of them wrong. She opened the door wearing a loose sweater and socks, hair pulled back like she'd done it without looking in a mirror. "You saved it," she said, like it mattered more than it should. "Barely," I said, holding it out. Her fingers brushed mine when she took it. Not accidental. Not deliberate either. Something in between. "Tea?" she asked, already stepping aside. I followed. The house smelled like citrus cleaner and something baked days ago. Lived in. Not staged. She poured hot water, moved around the kitchen without asking where things were. I leaned against the counter, watched steam rise. "I used to come here with my son," she said suddenly. "The laundromat. When he was little. He liked watching the machines. Thought they were portals." I smiled. "Did they work?" "Sometimes," she said. "He moved out last year. Says the place feels smaller now." She handed me a mug. Our fingers touched again. This time she didn't pull away right away. I sat at the table. She stayed standing. I noticed the faint lines at the corners of her eyes when she smiled. Not something to hide. Something earned. "You ever feel like you're late?" I asked, not sure why I was saying it. She tilted her head. "Late for what?" "Everything," I said. "Like everyone else got instructions." She laughed quietly, then stopped herself. Sat across from me. Wrapped both hands around her mug. "I was married for 20 years, she said. "Turns out that doesn't make you early or on time. Just busy." There it was. The thing we didn't say but both felt. The gap. The reason the room felt charged instead of comfortable. I pictured her younger, me older, us crossing paths and not noticing. I pictured nothing happening. Then everything. We drank our tea. Too hot at first. Then forgotten. I started. "Yeah," she said. "Probably." Neither of us moved. She reached across the table and brushed a crumb off my sleeve. A small, practical gesture. But her hand lingered half a second too long. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. I'd think later, maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. When I left, she didn't say goodbye. Just watched from the doorway, thermos tucked under her arm, like she was deciding whether to carry it inside or bring it back out again. The next week, I stopped going to the laundromat on Tuesdays. Not on purpose. Just drift. Work picked up. A client wanted revisions that didn't make sense. I started washing clothes late at night instead, timing it so I wouldn't run into anyone. The machines were louder then. Less forgiving. I didn't text her. She didn't text me. That should have been the end of it. But on Thursday, there was a knock on my door. Light. Like whoever it was might pretend they hadn't knocked at all if I didn't answer. I opened it, already knowing. She stood there with the blue thermos in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. Hair down this time. Not styled. Just loose, like it had been bothering her and she gave up. "I think this is yours," she said, holding up the bag. Inside was my charger. The one I'd left on her kitchen counter without realizing. A stupid thing to forget. A stupid excuse to come by. "Oh," I said. "Thanks." She didn't move. "Neither did I made too much soup," she added. Again. Again, I repeated, because my brain stalled there. She stepped inside. The room felt smaller with her in it. Or maybe I noticed it more. She glanced around like she was seeing it for the first time. The unmade bed. The stack of books I hadn't opened. My jacket hanging off the chair. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. Then, quieter, "Yeah." She set the bag down. Unscrewed the thermos, poured soup into a mug like this was normal. Like she hadn't knocked on a door she shouldn't be knocking on. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. Not touching. Close enough to feel the heat from her arm. She stared into the mug, blew on it, didn't drink. "I shouldn't do this," she said finally. My chest tightened. "Do what?" She looked at me then. Really looked. Like she was trying to memorize something before it changed. "This," she said. A small gesture. "The space between us." I nodded. Too fast. Like agreeing would make it easier. "Right," I said. "Of course." Silence. Thick. Pressing. From outside, a car door slammed. Someone laughed. Normal life continuing, inconsiderate as ever. "My son's coming by this weekend," she said. "He knows you." "Not well." "But, yeah," I said. The word landed heavier than it should have. She shifted, turned toward me, then stopped halfway. Her hands folded in her lap. Unfolded. Folded again. "I don't know what you think this is," she said. "Or what you want." I wanted to tell her. The honest version. The one without plans or expectations. The one that just wanted to sit a little closer and not explain why. Instead, I said, "I don't think anything." "I just what?" She stood up. Abrupt. Like if she stayed seated, she'd make a different choice. Walked to the door, then paused. I followed. Not touching. "Not yet." She turned. We were close enough now that I could see a faint scar near her eyebrow. Something old. Something survived. For a second, neither of us breathed. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. Then back to my eyes. Almost. She stepped back first. "I should go," she said. I nodded, because this time, it was true. When the door closed, the room felt louder than before. And I stood there, staring at the place where she'd almost stayed, knowing whatever line we'd nearly crossed was already behind us, or waiting, patient and dangerous, for next time, walked because neither of us suggested sitting. It was early evening, the kind where the light goes thin and honest. The street behind the house sloped downward toward a small park, just a bench, a tired tree, a path people used when they didn't want to be seen. She kept her hands in her coat pockets. I kept mine busy, opening and closing my fingers like I was testing them. "I saw you with someone," she said. Not accusation. Observation. Still, it landed hard. "Who?" I asked, even though I already knew. "The girl from upstairs," she said. "The one who laughs loud. Red headphones." "Oh," I said. "Her." We stopped near the bench. Didn't sit. "She touched your arm," she added. Like it meant something. It hadn't. Not really. But explaining that felt dangerous. Like it would invite a different question. "She's just around," I said. She nodded, stared ahead. Jaw tight. I watched the muscle there flex, then release. "I don't get to feel that," she said quietly. "That reaction. It's not mine to have." I swallowed. "You're allowed to feel whatever you want." She looked at me then. A small, tired smile. "That's generous." And wrong. A couple passed us, talking about groceries. Someone's dog pulled at a leash. Ordinary things. Too ordinary for how close the air felt between us. I don't know what you expect from me, she said. I don't even know what I expect from myself. I imagined reaching out. My hand on her sleeve. The warmth there. Didn't do it. I don't expect anything, I said. That's kind of the problem. She exhaled. A sound halfway to a laugh, halfway to something else. When I was married, she said, everything had a label. Even the mistakes. This doesn't. She gestured between us. This is just hanging there. We sat on the bench then. Space between us, but less than before. Our knees almost touching. Almost. I think about you more than I should, she said. Not looking at me. I hear the gate at night and wonder if it's you. That's not fair. To you. Or to me. My chest felt tight, like I'd been holding something in for days without noticing. I think about you too, I said. In stupid moments. Like when I'm choosing coffee. Or when my phone buzzes and it's not you. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. That's exactly it, she said. That's where it starts to tip. Silence again. The bench creaked when she shifted closer. Or maybe I did. I don't want to be the reason you stay, she said. And I don't want to be the reason you leave. I turned toward her. Finally. Our faces close enough now that I could see the tiny crease between her brows. The one that showed up when she was thinking too hard. What do you want? I asked. She opened her eyes. Met mine. Didn't answer right away. And the question hung there between us, fragile and unfinished, waiting to be crossed, or carried back home. She stopped answering. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just slower. A thumbs up where there used to be a sentence. A delay long enough that I'd forget what I'd asked. Then nothing. I told myself it was fine. People get busy. People reconsider. I did the same thing with emails I didn't want to write. Let them sit until the urgency wore off. I started taking the long way home. I stopped lingering in the kitchen when I heard movement in the main house. The gate stayed quiet. Or maybe I just wasn't listening for it anymore. On Sunday afternoon, her ex showed up. I didn't know who he was at first. Just a man standing by the car, leaning against it like he'd earned the right. Mid-50s. Familiar posture. He laughed too loud at something she said, reached out and touched her shoulder without checking if it was welcome. I watched from my window. Didn't mean to. Didn't stop myself either. They talked for a long time. No raised voices. No drama. Just history moving its mouth. Later, I found out he'd been there for their son. Helping move something. A bookshelf, maybe. An excuse that made sense. She didn't come by that night. Or the next. I washed my clothes at the laundromat again. Tuesday. Same machines. Same chair. The place felt emptier than I remembered. Or maybe I was the one missing something now. I imagined what she might say if we talked. That it was complicated. That timing matters. That she'd done this before and didn't want to do it again. All reasonable. All unsatisfying. When she finally texted, it was short. I think we need some space. I stared at the words until they blurred. Typed back. Deleted it. Typed again. I understand. Too polite. Did I do something? Too much. Okay. Too empty. I didn't send anything. That night, I heard her gate. Late. Slower steps than usual. I stood by my door, hand on the knob, counting breaths like that might make a decision for me. I thought about knocking. About asking her to just sit for a minute. No fixing. No labels. Just honesty. I stayed where I was. The next morning, the bench at the park was empty. The thermos was gone from the kitchen window. Her lights stayed off longer than usual. I went to work. Answered emails. Lived around the absence like it was furniture I couldn't move. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. That evening, I wrote her a message I never sent. It ended with a question I didn't know how to ask without sounding like I wanted more than she could give. I closed the app. Set my phone face down. Outside, someone sat on the bench where we'd almost decided something. Not us. Just a stranger, waiting for nothing in particular. I let the moment pass. It happened on a Wednesday. Not a meaningful date. Just the middle of things. I was in my kitchen, staring into the fridge like it might offer advice, when I heard the gate. One slow creak. Then another. Not rushed. Not hesitant either. Familiar enough that my body reacted before my head did. I didn't move right away. There was a knock. Firmer than before. Like she decided something and didn't want to lose it on the way. When I opened the door, she was standing too close. Close enough that stepping back would have been a choice. Her hair was damp, like she'd just showered. No makeup. The blue thermos in her hand again, empty this time. "I'm not here to stay long," she said. "Okay," I said. She glanced past me into the apartment, then back at my face. Like she was checking for witnesses. Or courage. "I've been doing this thing," she said, "where I pretend distance is the same as control." I didn't interrupt. I'd learned better than that. "My ex came by," she continued. "Not because I wanted him to. Because I let old habits decide for me. And afterward, I realized I was more scared of wanting something new than repeating something familiar." She paused. Swallowed. "That's not fair to put on you." I leaned against the doorframe. "Gave us both something to lean on." "You didn't," I said. "I made my own mess with it." She smiled at that. Small. Grateful. "I think about you," she said. "More than I should. Enough that it's changed how I move through my day. That scares me." "It scares me too," I said, before I could stop myself. She nodded. Relief and worry crossing her face at the same time. "I can't promise anything," she said. "I can't be the center of your life. And I don't want to borrow time from you that you'll need later." I stepped closer. Not touching. Just closing the space enough to make the truth land. "I'm not asking for promises," I said. "I just didn't want silence to decide for us." Her eyes softened. That crease between her brows eased. "I don't want to disappear on you," she said. "I just need to know we're choosing whatever this is. Not drifting into it." I nodded. "Then we choose." She let out a breath she'd been holding. Looked down at the thermos. Then back up. "Okay," she said. It wasn't a solution. It wasn't even clear. But it was honest. She reached out and touched my wrist. Light. Grounding. Her thumb pressed once, like a punctuation mark. We stood there a moment longer than necessary. Then she stepped back. "I'll see you," she said. "Yeah," I said. "You will." She walked away without looking back. And this time, the quiet she left behind didn't feel like absence. It felt like something that had finally been said. Time passed the way it always does, quietly, without asking if you're ready. We didn't mark it. No anniversaries of that night at the door. No jokes about almosts. Things just settled. Like dust after someone finally stops pacing. Tuesday mornings became ours, without us ever naming them that. 8:47 a.m., give or take. The house would still be waking up. The city not yet loud enough to demand attention. She'd be at the small kitchen table in the main house, mug already out, steam rising. Black coffee for me. Tea for her. Always the same chipped mug. Always refilled once. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Silence stopped feeling like a test and started feeling like permission. I still rented the back unit. Still worked too late some nights. Still forgot to answer texts. She still overthought, still folded towels like they were going to be judged, still pretended she didn't check the gate when she heard it open. But things shifted. The bench at the park wasn't charged anymore. Just a bench. We sat there sometimes after dinner, knees touching without ceremony. She'd point out a dog that looked like one her son had when he was younger. I'd tell her about a client who wanted the logo more blue, but less blue. She'd laugh and lean into my shoulder without thinking about it. The thermos lived on my counter now. Still faintly tasted like old coffee no matter how many times it was washed. We stopped trying to fix that. People noticed. Not in a dramatic way. Just small looks. A neighbor's pause. A question left unasked. We didn't rush to explain. We didn't rush anything. There were still limits. Still care. Still moments where she'd pull back, just slightly, and I'd let her. Moments where I wondered what came next and chose not to demand an answer yet. Love didn't arrive like a revelation. It showed up as consistency. As knowing how she takes her tea. As her knowing when I need quiet instead of reassurance. As the way she'd rest her hand on my back when she passed behind me, not lingering, just enough to say I'm here. One morning, much later, we were sitting at the table. Sunlight cutting across the wood. She reached for my mug by mistake, took a sip, made a face. Still hate it, she said. I smiled. Still drinking it anyway. She looked at me then. Not searching. Not afraid. Just present. Yeah, she said. I guess I am. That night, when we locked up and turned out the lights, she didn't go back to the main house. She didn't have to explain why. She just stayed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was earned. And sometimes, when we pass the laundromat on Tuesdays, she squeezes my hand once, quick, private, and I think about how close we came to letting silence decide.